crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile, counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but you know, the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
It'll be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball striking performance.
Yeah, you know, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to power in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogey, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
This is SportsRage. I'm Morency, level 3. I said earlier, and SportsGrid made a video, and it was on Twitter, in which I said, well, it's going to be a bad night in Edmonton after this game. And I said, it's going to be a bad night for the bars in Edmonton. And somebody just sent me a message on Twitter and said, Morency, I saw your video, and I'm in a bar in Edmonton. And he said half the bar left and went home after the second period. Right, so they're not even lingering and sat and you know, and staying and drinking. They're like, no, this is over. We're done, and we're going home. Like I said, it's going to be very tough for the Oilers to get up for this. Both the Panthers and the Celtics have shown a great killer instinct. Winning on the road, they've both been in this position before. I think it shows. Their experience shows here. It takes, you know what I mean? Something, you know, you've got to fail to win. This isn't the end of the line for Connor McDavid. But the Edmonton Oiler window won't be open forever. There's a lot of similarities between teams and sports. And it's like the Buffalo Bills, right? Same with the Bengals. Like Joe Burrow's really good and stuff, but it doesn't last forever, right? There's cycles to this. New players, new stars come in, and even though you're still good, other people are just suddenly better than you are. So at some point, you've got to take advantage of it, but this isn't it for the Edmonton Oilers. The problem for the Oilers is the Western Conference is just so tough. And I'm not going to say, you know what, it is tougher than the Eastern Conference, but the Panthers are better than what the West sent here, right? They are. No one can dispute this right now. But, you know, all right, 3-2 for the White Sox. So there's a new opportunity again. 3-2. And you know what's crazy? They're up 3-2 right now, but it's only plus 135 for the Mariners. But the White Sox have taken another lead. And we talk a lot about, you can jump in on the Seattle Mariners and come back. But this has happened a few times where the Mariners are leading. You take them, like you take the team that's losing to them. They come back, and then the White Sox will come back and take a lead again. And then they'll lose again after. So, like, basically, like, you can get, like, multiple bets with, in these White Sox games. I think they're almost the most interesting team in baseball to bet on, to be honest. The Los Angeles Dodgers down 3-1 right now. So, the NBA Finals tomorrow night. This game is same start time, 8:30 Eastern time. Boston are still getting 1 point. The total is 211.5, so there really hasn't been any line movement since last night. I think, as I was just talking about, showing a killer instinct, Boston have a chip on their shoulder in which, they hear everything that people have said about them. Jaylen Brown has heard the criticism over the years. Jason Tatum's heard the criticism over the years. It seems like now that Tatum has a little bit of an edge to him. I brought up earlier about Joe Mazzulla showing them like UFC comebacks and stuff and like showing them do not let up because anything can happen. But I also do know, and they've talked about it, they're proud of the fact that they haven't lost a game on the road. And it's an incredible feat, right? Like, it's like the Hall of Fame, right? Like you're in the Hall of Fame, you get the jacket, you're in the Hall of Fame, right? But there's different levels to the Hall of Fame, even though there isn't. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if you won the championship, you won the championship. But there's also like, yeah, they won the championship, but no one will ever remember them, right? Or they won the championship, but they weren't great. But, the Celtics can hang their hat on, listen, we won the championship and we went 16-2. Let's roll. This is Sports Rage. I am Gabriel Morency, the pimps, the players, the hustlers, the people that bust them, and everybody else in between. Level 3 has begun. The Oilers' meltdown is nearly complete. We've got an oil spill in aisle 4 right now as the Edmonton Oilers lose to the Florida Panthers and leave their home fans brokenhearted. Say what you will about the Edmonton Oilers, but I tell you what, it's hard to argue that there's any building in the National Hockey League that's rocking before a playoff game like that building is. The atmosphere is off the hook, but oftentimes the Edmonton Oilers are unable to take advantage of it. There was a lot of talk yesterday about the Florida Panthers being delayed and the long travel. They're getting there too late. It's going to cost them. This could change the series and all that. And clearly, that all meant nothing, right? It was a wild game that had these wild swings in it, but ultimately the Florida Panthers, very similar to the Boston Celtics, have been just too damn good. And honestly, what I say, what's going to happen in the remainder of these series is should be faded for bettors out there, as I thought both these series were going to go at least like 6-7 games, right? I thought Dallas and Boston, I thought this was a 6-7 game series. Hell, I thought the Edmonton Oilers were going to beat the Florida Panthers, had a legitimate chance of winning this series. They're having a hard time scoring a goal, let alone win the series. It's like playoffs, win the series. So now I don't see how both these games aren't sweeps. Detroit Lenny's going to step up and in from Vegas. We'll get his take on the NBA Finals Game 4. Will there be a sweep? Will the Boston Celtics win on the road? The way I figure it is, if you're the Boston Celtics, you have to go back to Boston anyways, right? And would you rather go back to Boston on a high partying, knowing that the only thing that you have left to do is go celebrate a parade in Boston? Or do you want to go back and have to go through the weekend and have to play a game on Monday, right? You can say, oh, they want to win at home and all that stuff. Well, teams, if you'll notice, seem to win championships on the road a lot more than they do win at home. It's almost rare that teams win at home. Like in the NBA Finals, teams always say clinch on the road in the finals. How many like crazy, oh my God, they won at home, those crazy home moments? They happen once in a while. But, for the most part, same with the Stanley Cup. Teams like generally always just win on the road. So I think this is done. And it's also done as far as the Conn Smythe Trophy is concerned. As we talked about the other night, if there was one way to sort of get out of your, get in on the Florida Panthers, or if you like the Oilers, Bobrovsky was only minus 150 to be the Conn Smythe Trophy winner. Coming into tonight's game, he's now minus 400. That's done. And we're already still regretting not taking Jaylen Brown to win the most valuable player of the NBA Finals. But what can we do? We can't live in the past. All we can do is break down Friday night's game, in which I personally believe the Boston Celtics are going to win the championship. Dallas will play well in the first quarter. They'll go on a bunch of runs, and it'll be pretty close. And then it's going to be, rinse and repeat. When the game is on the line, the Boston Celtics just have more players that'll step up and be able to win the game. As far as the Stanley Cup Finals are concerned, it's not much different than the NBA. Only one team in Stanley Cup Finals history has ever come back from trailing 0-3. We've got Brent Beard going to step up and in. Heisman Trophy voter, First Coast News College football analyst. We've got some football to get to. The craziness continues in the college football world. And you have to wonder if the Pac-12 powers that be didn't do what these other conferences are now doing to make money. The Pac-12 could potentially still be existing. We all know the Big Ten and the SEC has taken everything over, but the Big 12 has done a very good job adjusting to the modern college football world, and now they're going to sell a 20% share of their conference to a hedge fund. That's right. That's the world that we're in right now. It sounds crazy, but who the hell do you think owns Grand Canyon University? A hedge fund. All right? So an equity firm is going to step up in a hedge fund. They're going to sell 20% of the Big 12 conference, and they're going to change the name of the conference. It won't be the Big 12 anymore. It'll be the All-State 12 for All-State Insurance. That's going to pay them reportedly $30 to $50 million a year. Conference USA already in talks with Globe Life, the sponsor of the Texas Stadium. So it's almost like bowl names. So you know what's going to be the Pop-Tart MAC Conference. The Pop-Tart Bowl got a good run. I'm thinking Geico's got to get a conference. You can make the lizard the logo and stuff. You know, the Geico 8. You know, rename the Mountain West. And I'm not even joking anymore. The only question is going to be the Chick-fil-A SEC or Dr. Pepper.
Crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile, counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but you know, the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
It'll be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball-striking performance.
Yeah, you know, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to power in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogey, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
This is SportsRage. I'm Morency. Shout out to all of our AM radio affiliates. All right, so we got Brent Beard. We'll get back to the college football, and we'll get everybody caught up to date with the wild stuff that's going on in the college football world right now. But speaking of football, before we bring Detroit Lenny in, and wild stuff, Trevor Lawrence gets a massive $275 million contract extension from the Jacksonville Jaguars, and this is a problem in the National Football League that we see with the quarterback position, in which whether you're the best quarterback or not, you become the highest paid quarterback as long as it's your turn to get paid. And it really is amazing if you look at the highest paid quarterbacks coming into this year in the National Football League, it wouldn't be the quarterbacks that you would think. And I get it, though. It's one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't deals. It's almost like this now with the Dallas Cowboys with Dak Prescott. You could say, well, you know what? We don't win with him, and he wants to make $60 million a year. And then you could say, yeah, well, look how much money that people are, other quarterbacks are making, right? Like Trevor Lawrence now at $55, $56 million a year. Jared Goff, 53. Let's bring in Detroit Lenny right now. Lenny, always good, my man. And I want to start off with the Stanley Cup Finals, actually, because we're on the clock here. We're packed. I only got a couple of segments with you here. Stanley Cup Finals tonight. I'm really surprised. I knew the Panthers were a great team, but I never thought they were going to be up 3-0 on the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah. The Oilers played well tonight, but just similar to Dallas, they're always a step behind. Like the Boston Celtics, they couldn't get it done tonight.
I really feel like Florida is just the better. I mean, I don't want to say this, and I don't want to sound like that guy, but they're the better team. And I had Florida in 6, so I don't want to sit here and say that I think Florida was going to run through them. But I heard you mention earlier about a guy in Edmonton at a bar and everybody had left. That is how I feel like the locker room in Edmonton is right now. They got some goals at the end of that game. Florida maybe let off the gas a little. Maybe it is what it is, but I don't see this coming back to Florida without the Stanley Cup in hand. For one team's coming back to Florida is how I look at this. And
yeah, you know what? And I agree with you. As far as Edmonton is such a hockey crazy market, it really is, and they have arguably the most annoying media as far as like with the players and confrontations. And Montreal is known as being bad, but it's really like amongst players in the NHL, they don't like the Edmonton media. So it's going to be very negative. Plus, the whole town's going to be all the press. Like, I almost like a team better to avoid a sweep if they're on the road. Because, teams at home, the trophy's in the building and stuff, and they'll get caught up in that sometimes.
Yep.
I think
100%.
Florida will just want to finish them off. And like you said, if you're Edmonton, it's deflating. I mean, you're getting dominated here. You've scored. You can't score, right? You score late. And it's similar to the Dallas Mavericks last night. You come back, a little 22 run, but it's still not enough.
No. And I'll say this, it's Edmonton. They look sad, not mad. And you want your team to be angry and have some fight in them. And I don't see any of that, even when there was only a 1-goal game. And I just didn't see – I saw a whole lot of excitement, don't get me wrong, but I didn't see a dog fight out of them. And I feel like you need that to scrap back into this series because this is done. I mean, similar to the Dallas and the Boston series in the NBA. Boston wins this series. I don't know if Dallas hasn't won a game since they took Luka's beer away after that game. Again, the Western Conference Final, and in the
same
tunnel,
parallel as the Oilers. The Oilers haven't won since the superfan exposed herself, right? And she hasn't done it since, and they haven't won since. See, there's
something to say about being natural. That's all I'll say.
Exactly.
Something to say about El Natural.
People are blaming Luka for his defense. Yeah, that's the problem. They took his booze away. Just let him drink at this point, right?
Let the man have a beer at halftime if he wants. I mean, come on. I mean, Jim Leland was smoking a pack of cigarettes in the dugout less than 20 years ago. So it's, I don't know.
You know what's crazy, though? And I agree with you. And I thought it was going 6. I thought both these series would be more entertaining and longer series. Yeah. But from a betting standpoint now, it really is. You look at this, and it's like, okay, look how dominant the Florida Panthers have been. And they're plus 100 right now. And you got a plus side next to the bet. Plus 100 in the next game. And similar to the Boston Celtics, they're actually 1-point underdogs in this basketball game. And on the money line is minus 110, but you get a plus 1, minus 115, etc.
Right.
Hard, I think both of them are going to end up in sweeps.
Yeah, I tell you what, you can't not take the plus money with Boston. They've showed you nothing but that they can finish this and win, and I'll take that. And as far as the Florida Panthers side, again, showed you nothing except, I think both these series, I'll take the Oilers in the first period, and I'll take Dallas. I'll take the Mavericks in the first half, but overall, it's the Panthers and the Celtics for me, full game. And I'm already on the over 5.5 for the Oilers and the Panthers because I think, the Oilers backs against the wall here. They you pull the goalie early, probably going to get an empty netter, maybe even two, depending on how that, there's nothing left to be left on the ice here for the Oilers. So they got to go all out. And I mean, not that you're not going all out for the NHL finals, but you really got to go all out this time, in this game.
Yeah, and they did tonight, and we saw that there ended up being 7 goals. I thought they were going to get that 8th in game. It was 7.5. I'll tell you what, though, guys, right now, if you think they're both going to win, the Boston Celtics +1 and the Florida Panthers to win the game is +273. That's not a bad price to salvage things for someone like me that's been wrong about these series. So on the way out, this is not a bad way. +273 is not bad. That's a nice price right there.
Exactly. And neither team has showed you that they can't finish this. I mean, Florida, the Panthers, or the Boston Celtics, I just think they have too much for them. And I think both the Mavericks and the Oilers just kind of backs against the wall. They're dead in the water, so to speak.
All right, on the other side, we'll get into some baseball with Detroit. Lenny, we'll wrap up some NBA, but baseball as well. Rangers up 3-1 on the Dodgers right now in the top of the 9th inning. And the Mariners and the White Sox were going back and forth once again because that's what happens in White Sox games. But stop the presses. The White Sox won.
Crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile, counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
It'll be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball-striking performance.
Yeah, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to power in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogeys, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
All right, we're on the clock right now. We got Brent Beard joining us in a couple of minutes, so I'll throw it to Detroit. Lenny here. So, are you going to play any player props tomorrow? I did hit Kyrie Irving last night. He went over the number, and I even hit an in-game over 32.5. I guess Luka will probably go off tomorrow and score a bunch of points. He'll be in a bad mood, but it doesn't mean he won't get burnt defensively still. But any player props for you tomorrow in this game? We both agree that the Celtics are to play, but any player props?
Yeah, no, I'm not a big player prop guy, especially in the NBA. I do agree with you. I think Luka gets his. I think that's part of why Dallas doesn't win this game. I feel like when he goes off, they don't play well as a team, and against Boston, that's going to be a problem. But as far as player props go, I don't really have a whole lot at all.
All right. So we both agree that it's going to be a sweep, plus 273. So I said as we were going into the break, the White Sox surprisingly won the game. And we've been cashing in a lot against the White Sox in game by, late in the game, taking the Mariners. Last week it was the Cubs that came back on them. But I'm not cashing in on the White Sox to be leading these games early. But there seems to be a pattern that they're winning the game after 5 innings. I've been missing out on this, to be honest.
Yeah, White Sox in game when they're down a run or two has been really nice this year. White Sox at the beginning of the game, maybe not so much. I've been betting a lot of them first 5. That hasn't worked out for me. But the in-game has worked out for me. The White Sox are the worst team in baseball. I mean, I'm not saying this because I'm a Tigers fan. It's just I think they're worse than the A's. But they're not going to go 0-162. They're going to win games. So I don't think they have 45 wins. That's my win total for them. I think they're bad. But they're going to be a good cash cow in certain situations, live betting especially.
Yeah, you figure at some point there'll be a buy-in on them just because the odds are going to be so high. They're going to be such big underdogs all the time, right? So you said you're a Tiger fan, Tigers and Astros this weekend. What do you think about this series? What do you think about Brown and Skubal on the hill here? Game's basically a pick 'em, minus 110, total 7.5.
Tariq Skubal is Cy Young candidate. He's pitching. He's having the best year of his life right now, pitch as far as obviously his career. And I think he's going to be too much for them. I think the Tigers are going to get theirs against Hunter Brown. I think the Astros probably take the series, but tomorrow Tariq Skubal does what he does. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes a little deeper in this game. He likes to go to the 8th inning. I mean, he'll go through 7, no problem. So he's not only got a gun for an arm, but he can go deep into the game. So I like that, and this bullpen needs that after a dismal series against the Nationals.
One thing we talked about the White Sox and the Mariners, but the Mariners have been a big under machine as of late. Have you been playing a lot of totals? Have you been riding this train at all with the unders?
Yeah, so the Mariners are an under team, and it's specifically because of their pitching, to be honest with you. Their offense is not great. It's lackluster at best. And their pitching is pitching very well, so that combination plays into a lot of unders. And you just got to match up wise as some of these unders. And with the pitch clock and everything like that, I think that plays into unders. I think that more messes with the batter than it does the pitcher now. I think because the pitchers are used to it a little bit. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, it seems like the pitchers, you're right, they have gotten into a rhythm, right? Some of them think it's causing injuries, but pitchers were getting injured before the clock. I'm not a massive fan. I could live without the clock. I wasn't one of the, we need a clock. But now that it's here, man, some of these pitchers, I was watching a reliever on the Blue Jays the other day. This guy, man, he got the ball back, and I thought the same thing. He was in a zone, and you could tell it was rattling the hitter on the Brewers. He didn't like it. He couldn't reset all the time. So it was like, bam, bam, bam. I think you're right. It's had
exactly.
But that's the irony, though, Lenny. It's almost like everything that they do for offense all the time has an inverse effect and goes the opposite way.
Yeah, they're trying to mess with it maybe too much. And Justin Verlander was one of those guys, gets into a groove back in his younger days with the Tigers. And he give me the ball. I want the ball back so I can go. I'm in a groove and I want to go. And I don't want to let that hitter get set and then get through his motions in his mind and go, okay, what? I don't want him to start thinking about what I'm throwing next. I want to throw it while he's still thinking.
Detroit, Lenny, it's always a pleasure, man. I don't want to run you. We've been jam-packed tonight. Where can people find you online?
Absolutely. Follow me at Detroit_Lenny on X or Twitter or whatever it's called now. Just follow me over there or Pick Some Parlays YouTube page. Appreciate you always having me, Gabe. It's always a pleasure talking to you, my friend.
It's always a pleasure, Lenny. All the best, my man. Brett Beard will step up and in next. Bring it.
crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but you know, the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
Be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball striking performance.
Yeah, you know, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to power in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogey, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
The Thursday night throwdown continues. This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency. Shout out to all of our AM radio affiliates joining us on Sirius XM Channel 159 on the SportsGrid radio and television networks. Let's talk college football. It's been a crazy offseason, and it's literally and figuratively been an insane last 24 to 48 hours. And you know the deals are continuing behind closed doors right now. And it all began with a blockbuster bombshell that the Big 12 was going to sell a 20% equity and share of their conference to an equity firm for $1 billion. Then they turned around and they sold the naming rights to the conference, and they're going to drop the big from the 12. And early reports are it's going to be called the Allstate, from Allstate Insurance, the Allstate 12, a deal reportedly worth $30 to $50 million a year on its own. We expected the floodgates to open up after this. Ross Dellinger of Yahoo Sports already reporting the Conference USA is in talks with Globe Life right now to rename their conference. Let's bring in a man that lives and breathes college football, a Heisman Trophy voter, First Coast News college football analyst, Ed Moore. Brent, it's always a pleasure, sir. Brent Beard joins us. Brent, what a wild last 24 hours.
It's just been amazing. It really has, isn't it, Gabe? And you and I have talked for months now. These conferences are always looking for revenue streams, aren't they? And one of the easier ways to get revenue streams is, and they did it a few weeks ago, is to put logos on the field. Now you've got someone to basically sponsor your conference is what it amounts to. Now, I give their commissioner a lot of credit. This has been in the works now, Gabe, for several months, and they just basically have uncovered it now. So the $1 billion. Now, look, the SEC and the Big Ten are always going to be the big dogs walking here, but this really gives the Big 12, I think, some new life. Now, when I saw the numbers broke down, did you see this too? That each team would only get like $2 or $3 million. I thought it would be more than that. But let me carry this out real quick. You help me with this. Gabe, if I was the ACC, I would be cozying up right now to the Big 12 and making some kind of a deal with them so that your two conferences basically, like your Big 10 and SEC are up here, the ACC and the Big 12 are tier down. If I was the ACC, Gabe, wouldn't you be making some kind of deal either on your own or either with the Big 12 right now too?
Well, I'll tell you what, Brent, the ACC has fallen behind in a similar way that the Pac-12 did. I heard rumors years ago that equity firms and hedge funds sort of kicked around the Pac-12 and said, listen, right, maybe we can work something out here. And as we know, the commissioner and the Pac-12, they always made the wrong decision all the time along the way. And it seems now the ACC, quite frankly, Brent, for a conference with as many higher institutions of learning here, you know what I'm saying? That so many smart schools, they're getting lapped around the field right now. Like you would figure the presidents of these really smart universities would realize what the landscape is. Duke and North Carolina, basically. Let's start off with them. Right. We know Florida State's been frustrated, but maybe this is a saving grace for them now because the ACC will be worth money now. And as you stated, Brett, you got to give credit to the Big 12. They've been aggressive about this. Remember you and I talked about them playing games overseas and selling games and championship games. And they're thinking like the NFL is. We're open for business. But the ACC's fallen behind. But Brent, like the Big 12, the Big 10 and the SEC, as big as they are, they're going to see this and go, well, look, if the Big 12 just got $1 billion or they're getting 30 to 50 for the naming rights, what are we going to get? So how long is it before it's Dr. Pepper SEC, Chick-fil-A SEC? I mean, it seems like it's going to be like bowl games, Brent. Every conference is going to sell the naming rights now.
Look, and that's an easy money for them too. And I know some commissioners now. Greg Sankey has been one to kind of be warning people. Sometimes these deals that are too good to be true are too good to be true. So, but it's easier to say that when you kind of with the Big Ten, you rule the roost right now. But see, here's the other thing with the ACC, Gabe. Not only is Florida State leaving, and they're going to announce that this summer, and then they'll be going, I think, next year to start the 2025 season. But you've got some of the other schools in the ACC that they look, Gabe, they may need to basically subtract before they can re-add. It may get worse there before it gets better in the ACC.
And unlike the Big 12 that understood there's more than just football, the Big 12 has put together a great basketball conference. So they're going to be a powerhouse all year long on television. Yet the ACC to me isn't leaning on their basketball enough with their media right deals and as a whole with the conference, right? Because we know, football and even football. All right, Florida State got left out, but Clemson's been in the playoffs. I don't think there's a problem with the ACC. I think there's been a problem with the ACC in the same way there's been a problem in the past with the Big 12, in which they just weren't generating enough revenue, right? True. I think the institutions are there. I don't think people don't want to watch Tar Heel basketball, Brent. I think people want to watch Clemson football still, right? I just think they've fallen behind from a business perspective. And look into baseball, which I want to get to. Look at the College Baseball World Series. It's half SEC, half ACC.
Absolutely. And so your point is an astute one, certainly, that they really need to take advantage of some of the pluses that they have got. My goodness, Gabe, now think about this a minute. To the point you made a minute ago, for the ACC and for the SEC and the Big Ten, my goodness, how powerful both those conferences are right now in football, basketball, baseball, particularly in the SEC. And look, some of the women's sports like softball in the SEC. My Stars, Oklahoma is about to join the SEC. So, Gabe, to your point again, you know good and well, people in a conference are thinking about how can we monetize this even more than what we're doing now.
Brent Beard joining us. Absolute insanity. At what point, though, Brent, do we drop the amateur or college student athlete? I mean, I guess are we past that point? I'm not saying that there aren't some student athletes, but we're past that point. And you know what? I've been talking about this for a while, Brent. the college football in this entity is becoming a rival to the NFL, actually. And
it is.
I think the NFL is realizing this. There's only so much sponsorship money to go around. I don't think the NFL is threatened, but point blank, I think we'll start to see them go head to head a lot more on television. And we already are this year coming up in the playoffs. I think the gloves are off, the best way of putting it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think you're seeing that on Black Friday with some of the games that are going on with that too. But look, and again, to your point, with the NFL, the college football is becoming more NFL-like all the time. I mean, we're talking revenue sharing now. Well,
and like the NFL, Brent, they're expanding from just their traditional sort of Saturday. You look at college football, Fox stepping big time up with Friday nights, Conference USA, or excuse me, Globe Life Conference. All kidding aside, right? They play a bunch of midweek games. The MAC always has, but
agree.
And then you get the MAC. I look forward to seeing what their title sponsor is going to be. Right, we'll get into some other stuff on the other side with Brett Beard, like specifically the preseason polls. But Lane Kiffin, give him credit. Say what you will about him. He always wins on the internet. When he found out that you could have sponsorship on the field, he said Tennessee should have French's mustard.
Crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile, counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but you know, the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
It'll be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball striking performance.
Yeah, you know, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to power in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogeys, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
This is SportsRage. I am Gabriel Morency. We're talking college football right now. We'll get a little World Series talk in here, college baseball World Series. As I think both me and Brett's pre-tournament predictions are still alive. I like the Tennessee Volunteers. But, Brett, you were talking last week, or we spoke 2 weeks ago about, the preseason polls. The magazines are starting to get released right now. And there seems to be a consensus as the top 3. Right, with Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Texas 3. Then there's a little bit of debate with different polls. It's always interesting to me. Are we going by what the potential of the team is, what the pedigree of the team is? Remember, Georgia last year came into the season. They were not the number 1 ranked team. what do you think about that top three? Are you comfortable with that top three? You're a Heisman Trophy voter, but what about this top three as of now? Georgia, Ohio State, Texas.
My concern for Texas would be is on defense. I mean, guys like Sweat on that defensive line going to the NFL. But look, they've got guys obviously Quinn Ewers. I think the skill positions, they're fine. Now, they did lose Bo Davis to LSU, and that hurts them. He is the best defensive line coach anywhere. Now, Ohio State, this is something you said a few weeks ago. I mean, Ohio State going in the transfer portal, I mean, they've got a situation where they're almost without excuse with the guys they've got coming in, like Julian Sain coming in from Alabama.
No, they're a college football all-star team. Like, they essentially are a college football all-star team. It's almost like the Senior Bowl or something like that, where it's like, all right, we've got the best player at every position. But they've also lost to Michigan. You know, they keep on losing to Michigan, yet they're ranked ahead of them. The Oregon Ducks, Brent, kind of okay. A lot of potential, but they seem to be ranked fourth behind Texas in a lot of spots. Like, they just lost twice. They didn't even win the Pac-12 last year. No, and now you're going into the Big Ten, and you have them ranked ahead of Michigan. I think Ole Miss are a little bit overranked, personally, in that 5-6 spot they keep popping up in. Ton of potential, Brett, but very similar to Ohio State. Go and prove it.
Well,
go and do it. You got all these recruits. You got all these NIL guys. Go and do it.
Well, see, this is what Ole Miss has not done, is Ole Miss has rarely beaten anybody. Look, I love Lane Kiffin. I like what they've done with this team and the transfer portal, especially on defense. But your point, people will respect Ole Miss when they start beating people that are favored over them. And they have just not been able to do that yet, Gabe. And I think you hit it on the head. That the ranking Ole Miss has got is based on the potential that people think they've got. Look, I can see them being a playoff team. I agree with that. But my question out loud is, can they finally beat some teams they're not supposed to beat this year?
I don't think that smart football people are people like in the football world, but I think sort of the casual fan and maybe some of the mainstream media are underestimating the Missouri Tigers. This is something that I noticed. So you're talking about a team. You look at their losses in the last couple of years, Brett. They played with Georgia 2 consecutive years in a row, right? Very competitive games with the Georgia Bulldogs. They lost a track meet last year in the last minute. It was a wild couple of 2 minutes of the game to Jaden Daniels and the LSU Tigers. They unlike Mississippi, they're beating like everybody. They're just running into Georgia right now, right? They ran into, LSU. All right, they lost that game. I know they lost some bodies on defense, but the offense is stacked, and I think they've done a great job recruiting there, replacing some of the defensive losses. So I looked at, I see Missouri around 11 and 12, and Tennessee are right there. I think Tennessee are overrated, and Missouri are underrated, and Mississippi are a little overrated.
Yeah, listen, Phil Steele, who's coming out in about a couple of weeks, Gabe, he's got Tennessee like 27. And then you're seeing Tennessee in the top 15 in some of the early magazines. You mentioned Missouri. I think Missouri is a playoff team with Brady Cook and Luther Burden. Gabe, Luther Burden can play in the NFL right now at wide receiver. I mean, he's that good. Blake Baker's gone from Missouri as their D coordinator. He went to LSU. But, no, your point's well taken with Missouri. And Georgia fans will tell you they don't want any more Missouri until later on the year. They played them tough, as you said, the last 2 years.
And the Michigan Wolverines, the defending champions, are sort of they're not being dismissed. They seem to be checking in, 8, 10, 12, different publications. But I think that it's a little bit of an overreaction. Yes, they lost a lot of bodies to the NFL. Yes, they lost Harbaugh. Let's look back to last year. Harbaugh wasn't there for half the year. All right?
Right.
Literally and figuratively. right? Like he wasn't there. He wasn't there for like the Penn State game. He wasn't there for the Ohio State game. He wasn't there for a lot of big-time games. So Moore already has some experience here. Losing J.J. McCarthy and his leadership and just how good he was as a leader is a big issue. But it's all about NFL talent, Brett, and they still have it. Like Mason Graham's arguably the best defensive lineman in the country. He was so underrated last year. You want to talk about cornerbacks, Will Johnson. So they have first-round pick at cornerback. They have a first-round pick at defensive line. They actually have a couple of first-round picks on the D-line. They're going to have a first-round pick in the secondary. They've got a star running back that is back, and we've seen now it's Edwards' turn to take over. We know their offensive line is going to be good. So, okay, there's going to be some questions with the quarterback, but we also know that Coach Moore doesn't mind running the ball 24 times in a row, as we saw last year.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. Well, here's the thing with Michigan. They're 6-7 in Lindy's and Athlon, which means they're squarely in the playoff situation. As you said, they'll be fine at running back, even with Corum going to the NFL. Huge opportunity for them, Gabe, early on with Texas coming to town. And I'll say this. I'm curious what you've heard on this, Gabe. They're being ignored. People are overlooking them. Aren't they embracing this? That, to me, that's to their benefit. If everybody thinks,
Crazy how many teams had a chance to win. The Ripper GC went from 9 back to leading by 2 to near the cellar again late in the day. It was so volatile, counting 4 scores. It was pretty nuts, but you know the cliques have been cellar dwellers for basically 2.5 seasons, and they come out victorious today. That's awesome.
Be the summer of the cliques, definitely. So, like I said, there's definitely more to come from us.
It was a magnificent ball striking performance.
Yeah, you know, I got to speak to someone in his camp before he teed off this morning, and they said to me that he is finally feeling extremely comfortable out here. He's not thinking about any swing thought. He's going out there, he's swinging so freely, and it certainly showed today. The way he drove the ball, the way he hit his irons, and even in his putting as well.
Yeah, and lives in Texas, went to school in Texas. His tour win on the PGA Tour was here in Houston, which is Texas, and now his first live win, Texas.
Honestly, it was just a matter of playing solid coming down the stretch. I think there was a switch there on 15 that I made birdie, he made bogey, and I just knew that I had to power in pretty much, and it was mine. The 18 I made bogeys, but it worked. He played unbelievable, and he put pressure all the way to the end, and it was a good battle. I love playing here. Obviously, Texas treats me well. It's my adopted home state, so I'm just happy to get it done again in Houston.
Thanks to Brent Beard and all of our guests for joining us this evening. So speaking of college sports, the College Baseball World Series continues, and we're down to the final 8, and we're back to the double elimination format once again. So you have to lose twice to get eliminated this weekend, starting tomorrow. And it's split between the SEC and the ACC. Our preseason, or I should say our pre-tournament, pre-World Series playoffs, etc., whatever, were the Tennessee Volunteers. I didn't bet it before the year started. Plus 500 before the tournament started. The Volunteers are still alive. So looking at the games tomorrow, North Carolina, anybody who's paid attention to this tournament, the North Carolina Tar Heels games are like the wildest of them all. They're like the comeback kids. They've hit like home runs, walk-off home runs, bottom of the ninth inning wins, wild games against the LSU Tigers. I know because I was on LSU earlier in the tournament. So Virginia have been really good as well, but I don't want to get in front of this Tar Heel team. Minus 135, give me the Tar Heels, 2 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock Pacific. Florida State are really good, explosive offense. We've seen them rack up a ton of double-digit runs through this run. With the Tennessee Volunteers pitching, second to none. Like we said, we like the Vols at plus 500. You get the Vols right now, plus 275, plus 300 still to win. But it's such a toss-up, this stuff. Let's be real. But I do think Tennessee is the play tomorrow. So I like the North Carolina Tar Heels, minus 135 to win, and the Tennessee Volunteers to win. Tomorrow night we can get into Saturday's games. But I'm leading with NC State, plus 120 against Kentucky, and Texas A&M minus 190 against Florida. We've got the Euro Cup set to begin, and Germany and Scotland are first up. The match is in Germany. The tournament is in Germany. And listen, Germany are like minus 370 favorites right now, so it's a little bit pricey. You can get into the goal and a half stuff, but here's an interesting same-game parlay. Anyone who knows me, knows how I like to bet on soccer, knows I love the over corner kick prop, all right? And one thing was Germany create a lot of offensive chances. They're very aggressive, so it forces the other team, to concede corner kicks. Germany are going to get a ton of corner kicks here in this match. And Scotland have been pretty good. Scotland have been averaging like 7 corner kicks a game on their own. It's 9.5. So I like that bet. But here's a same-game parlay. Germany to win the match, over 1.5 goals. The total is 2.5, but we're moving it to 1.5, just in case Germany wins like 2-0 or something like that. So Germany to win the match, over 1.5, and over 9.5 corner kicks combined. Both teams combined over 9.5 corner kicks is plus 180, same-game parlay. Not bad. When you consider Germany are minus 370, and this takes away potentially, like if they only win by 1 goal or something like that, and which is possible. Scotland might be able to score here. Germany generally play higher scoring games. Their new sort of system is very, they've always been aggressive, but it wouldn't be shocking if Scotland scored here. But I'm going to play I do think Germany wins the group at minus 280. So you could put that in parlays with something else that you like, including like, the BC Lions money line on Saturday in the CFL, the Boston Celtics tomorrow night. We talked about it earlier. The Boston Celtics are 1-point underdogs in the game, but the money line is it's minus 115. So you're better off just taking the point. So it's sort of flipping around, but we see a plus 1 here. So you take the Boston Celtics plus 1 and the Florida Panthers to win the game on Saturday, and it's plus 273. Now, for the record, we were talking about how crazy this was earlier, but wow, who would have thought that both these things would be in at 3-0? But I was just looking at this. We have to go back to 1995, the last time there was a double sweep. All right, in both. So, like, history could be made here, and I kind of get the feeling that it will. And as we showed that crazy tweet and that picture earlier in the week about Matthew Tkachuk and Jason Tatum being high school friends and high school classmates, amazing that they're on the verge of winning a championship. Not only both winning a championship, but in the same year, potentially, like back-to-back nights as well. That's some weird synergy I don't want to get in front of right now. And I've already been dead wrong about these series as is, so this is my bailout special to everybody, all right? Plus 273. Boston Celtics win tomorrow. Florida Panthers win on Saturday. And you get plus 273. Great job by our boy Jack for stepping up and in for Tommy tonight. Shout out to all of our guests. We had a ton of guests. Tomorrow night, we're on after the NBA game, 11:30 Eastern time. Other than that, you're on your own. Later.